From its very beginning, Unitarian Universalism has held social justice at its core. Every one of our UU principles contains at least one word or phrase that relates directly to this concept, such as respect, peace, liberty, equity, democratic process, inherent worth and dignity, dismantling racism and other oppressions, building beloved community, and of course, the word justice itself. This morning's service is about putting our principles into action to promote social justice. Come, let us worship together.
The mission of the Social Justice Incubator, or SJI, is to support and nurture any type of social justice work First Parish members and friends want to engage in. We understand that our congregation holds a wide variety of perspectives and passions, and the SJI is ready to help in any of these areas. While we've had a strong focus on anti-racist work recently, we support all kinds of initiatives, such as the Medfield Food Cupboard, Dignity Matters, Chaplains on the Way, the LGBTQ Luncheon, and the Wayside Pulpit Ministry. In our service today, we will introduce you to some of the social justice work happening in our congregation already, and we will ask you to tell us some of the areas you are interested in.
Good morning. I'm Louise Rachin, and when Becca asked me to speak about what fuels, or in my case, who fuels my community service involvement, the answer was pretty simple. My parents, Eva and Bob Rachin. I come from Modest Means. We grew up in Randolph, Massachusetts, and my dad sold appliances at Sears Roebuck and Company when it was in Quincy. And a few nights a week when my dad got home, my mother would head out for her job, which was as a waitress at a Chinese restaurant in Braintree. We never went hungry, but at the end of the month, there was never a huge amount of disposable income left over. In addition to being the site of many wonderful meals and celebrations, our dining room table was doubling as my dad's desk as I was growing up. And that's where each month my mom and dad would sit down and decide which bills needed to be paid right away and which ones could wait. I always knew as a little girl when it was bill paying day because the dining room table would be covered in envelopes. After the monthly bills were paid, there were always half a dozen envelopes remaining on that table. And I remember the day that I actually asked my mom what was up with those leftover envelopes, and she explained to me that after she and my dad paid their bills, they would decide which charitable organizations that they would contribute to each month. Even then, in my most self-involved adolescence, I did realize that there was something pretty special about that. But it wasn't until many years later that I fully understood that for my parents, giving back wasn't something they did when an accountant told my parents that they should at the end of the year. It was something they did each and every month, whenever possible. I am grateful to my parents for teaching me community service and giving back by example. And I am also very, very grateful to my First Parish family for your generosity and your support. In addition to the many other community service projects that First Parish is involved with, you've been beyond generous in your support of the Framingham Mills program, and that's going back many years. That was my very first First Parish Medfield community service involvement. The Project Bread Walk for Hunger that you have been supporting me for over a quarter of a century. The Meeting House Lunch Club that we are hopeful will reopen this spring. And most recently, Chaplains on the Way, our clothing drive and our most needed items. You've been beyond generous. My parents' dining room table has a place of honor in my home. Many of you have sat at it over the years because Duncan and I have hosted more than a few small suppers, and higher power willing, we hope that we'll be hosting more. Our daughter Leah knows that although it might not be her taste in furniture, Nana and Papa's dining room table, scarred and scratched as it is going to stay in our family for as long as those wobbly legs hold. Thank you.
My voice is a trumpet. The author, Jimmy Allen, is a country musician. This is his first book. Here he is with his two children, Aiden and Naomi. Some have a voice as tall as a tree, loud and proud, and sways in the breeze. Some have a voice as small as a bee, soft and sweet, like kisses of honey. Some have a voice that's patient and wise, with lessons of life told through sparkling eyes. Some have a voice sunny and bright, a voice that can echo and light up the night. There's a voice that is silent, but still can be heard, with hands that move to speak every word. Then there's the voice that roars like a lion, a big voice that tells you, always keep trying. We all have voices to hear. My voice is a trumpet, strong and clear. My voice will be loud when I'm not sure I know, to wonder, to learn, and to ask as I go. I will learn to speak up, to show I am strong, to stand for what's right, and to know what feels wrong. My voice is a rainbow after the storm, loving, comforting, safe, and warm. I'll use my voice to find joy in others, reminding us all we are sisters and brothers. I'll say no to hate by using this voice and always choose love, a magical voice. Voices are powerful and together they're strong like the musical notes of a beautiful song. How will you use your voice?
My parents were children of poor Jewish immigrants who ran from pogroms in Eastern Europe. The Jewish religion celebrates its trials of history, like slavery and escape to freedom, destruction of the temple, the Holocaust. While I learned all this growing up, what I didn't learn was that I am a member of the white race and that my race has privileges that other races don't have. I started studying about racism and privilege about 10 years ago, but it wasn't until I started reading books in the anti-racism book club where my eyes were opened up even more to other people's experiences. In the books we read and discussed, I delved into firsthand accounts of how others are not able to celebrate their history and heritage as I do, and that their trials aren't historical like mine are, but are current and ongoing. In the first book, given a white man's name, Austin Channing Brown had to learn to search for Black dignity in a world made for whiteness. In her book, I'm Still Here. Through microaggressions she names one after another, Brown shows why white fragility is so dangerous. It ignores the personhood of people of color, and instead it makes the feelings of whiteness the most important thing. So I asked myself, if I don't know that I have a race, how do I even understand what this means? I don't think about my whiteness. It's just normal. No wonder Brown was upset that the nonprofits that she worked for, wanted her racial diversity without her diversity of thought and culture. And she pointed out in the book that religions talk about love, but it's meaningless if those purporting love refuse to see the systems of injustice, but instead focus only on personal intentions. In Ijoma Olulu's book, So You Want to Talk About Race, I learned that systemic racism is a machine that runs whether we pull the levers or not. And by just letting it be, we are responsible for what it produces. She told me that you don't have to be a racist to be part of a racist system. It's the system and our complacency in it that gives racism its power, not individual intent. As she put it so succinctly, there's no shoving 400 years of racial oppression and violence toothpaste back into the toothpaste tube. She told me to jump into conversations about race and be well assured that I would screw them up, and I do all the time. But she gave me a list of tips to follow as I take my embarrassed foot out of my mouth. And the book club was a good place to have these conversations. But it was in Isabel Wilkinson's book, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent, that was an ultimate wake-up call for me. Caste, what a meaningless word in the United States. I mean, I knew India had a caste system based on family value, family, and the last name. But to me, it's ludicrous, just as was the Nazi caste system based on religion. But what Wilkinson explained is that I have participated in a caste system all my life, one based on the color of a person's skin. And when one puts that side by side with other caste systems, it sounds to me just as ludicrous. But that's so easy for me to say because, I have white skin and that puts me on top of the heap. All my life, I have studied the horrors of the Nazi treatments of Jews. But when Wilkinson explained to me that the Nazis looked at our caste system and decided that we had gone too far even for them, This was the limit of my tolerance for racism. The book club, through the readings and discussions, is a way for me to keep on learning about this system that I don't want to be a part of anymore. And on a personal note, as some of you may know, I made a commitment to myself to think about race every single day. And I decided one small thing I could do was wear 2 different color socks. Without this daily act, it's too easy for me to forget that I too have a race and that my race is oppressing other races. Thank you.
Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Our words this morning are from Harold E. Babcock. Let us be quiet without and within. Let the stillness be in us. Let the silence hold us. May we find the deep places of the soul and begin to let go of the distractions which plague us. May we let go of irritation, calm the confusion which inhibits us, let go of fear. The quiet is within us. The stillness is in us. The silence will hold us. There are deep places in the soul. Here may we find peace.
The Anti-Racism Task Force planned a vigil to honor the memory of George Floyd and the many other Black folks who have been killed by police. The community came together on May 23rd to hear from pastors, members of our congregation, and a number of Black speakers who graced us with their experiences, stories, and insights about the legacy and the enduring impacts of racism today. When I reflect on what I learned from the vigil, I keep circling back to my complete lack of knowledge. At the heart of this truth, what I keep coming back to is a modest and sincere admission that I won't and can't ever fully understand the journey of someone who has to put up with discrimination because of the color of their skin. For me, it's about disconnecting from my ego. My ego wants to know it all and to lecture and to advise, but my heart keeps reminding me to put my ego aside in this work. It tells me you can't ever fully understand. And also, this is not about you. Sincere modesty and humility, the acknowledgement that I will never fully get someone else's experience, is a crucial part of my journey. And the flip side to my humility is trust in someone else's lived experience. At the vigil, we had the honor of hearing from Black speakers who shared their experiences and reflections with us. These experiences were painful to hear, but must have been even more painful to share. I am reminded of the 1985 movie Mask, where Cher played the mother of a boy named Rusty, who had severe facial deformities. Rusty went away to summer camp and fell in love with a girl who was blind from birth. I still remember a scene from the movie where Rusty was trying to explain different colors to her. I remember thinking about how hard it would be to understand something that you'd never seen. I also remember thinking about how hard it would be to try to explain a color to someone who had no frame of reference for what color was. In this metaphor, I am the blind girl. I depend on others to inform me about something I don't know much about. Trusting in others while admitting my own lack of knowledge, I start to build more authentic relationships that are rooted in empathy. I begin to let go of my assumptions and to substitute actual knowledge where I previously only had judgment. But that's trust from my white perspective. What about trust from the perspective of the Black speakers we invited to the vigil? Reggie Gibson spoke about it, looking out into the audience and probably seeing the man who stood next to the chief of police wearing the Blue Lives Matter t-shirt. Why should he trust white folks enough to stand before a mostly white crowd that he doesn't even know, to share his stories and his reflections on race in America? After acknowledging how hard it can be for Black folks to trust white folks, Reggie alluded to the importance of trust in forming friendships that we need to move forward. In Reggie's own words, is it possible that we can call each other friend? Let us take a chance on knowing one another. Be vulnerable enough to open up and start showing one another our true selves, beyond what our scars have made of us. Let us be brave enough to ponder what anger and animus each of us must give up for a chance at a friendship based on human respect, dignity, and yes, love. Let us be honest enough to discuss what misconceptions each of us must let go of, what privileges each of us must refuse to cling to, what residue must be cleansed from our race-stained mind, so we can see ourselves as one kind, become one heart, one mind. Let's start by opening one door at a time and letting the light in, and begin to find the courage to step toward each other and accept each other as friends. This indeed will take trust. Thank you.
When I retired from my job at another UU congregation in June of 2018, I looked forward to returning to Sunday morning worship services here at this First Parish and getting more involved in congregational life again. My interest in social justice and anti-oppression work had steadily increased while I was serving the other congregation, and I wanted to look at what was happening with social justice here. Come to find out, in 2018, there was no social justice committee as such here at First Parish, but there was the Green Sanctuary Committee. This suited me just fine. I am a longtime nature lover. The seventh principle has always called to me, and climate change was becoming more and more evident and concerning. The dedicated founders of the Green Sanctuary Committee had come together in 2016 and did the commendable work of leading First Parish to become an accredited UUA Green Sanctuary congregation in 2017. When I arrived the following year, the committee was redirecting their energies toward the ongoing work of being a Green Sanctuary congregation rather than becoming one. The group's actions all along have been focused on becoming more sustainable, and especially in reducing the carbon footprint of First Parish as an institution, as well as in our own households and the community around us. At the same time, it was clear to me that not only was environmental and climate justice an integral part of the mission of the Green Sanctuary Committee, there was a recognition that all kinds of injustices are connected. At every meeting, in some context or another, racism and economic oppression were and continue to be mentioned in our discussions and identified as areas for more learning and action. I have come to believe through my experiences, and I would talk more about these if there were time, my experiences with the Green Sanctuary Committee, that protecting our planet against harm brought about by we humans, and I mean the whole gamut of pollution, waste, destruction, overconsumption, fossil fuel dependence, and more, can be construed fundamentally as a justice issue that involves everyone. It is true that a large percentage of the Earth's human population, as well as other forms of life, are highly vulnerable to the effects of harm that has been done. This, while people who have consumed, destroyed, and profited the most can afford to escape the worst effects. It is unjust. The latter portion of people, whom I include myself in this, however, we will eventually suffer because all of us on this planet are connected. Our world is one world, to quote a line from a hymn that we all know. What touches one affects us all. What the Green Sanctuary Committee did and does sings to my heart. And I know that more could be done, which is why I am so grateful the Social Justice Incubator was formed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. So you've heard this morning about so many different social justice initiatives taking place at First Parish, outside First Parish by so many people. And now we want to know from everyone else on this Zoom, what are you really passionate about when it comes to social justice? I'd love for everybody to just take a moment and type some words or phrases into the chat. Make sure you've chosen to everyone and don't just, tell one person. And I promise, typing something into the chat does not mean we're going to make you run a committee or head up a particular initiative. But, this social justice incubator, as Kay was talking about, is meant to be here to nurture and to support whatever social justice initiatives this congregation wants to take part in. And so it's really important for us to know what other people are interested in. And it could be some of the things we've talked about today, and it could be some other things. So I'd love for folks to take a moment, give it a thought, and type into the chat what you're passionate about. Don Rolfe, reducing the carbon footprint of First Parish. Great one. LGBTQ+. More braver. Oh, this, yes, More Braver Angels workshops to cross the political divide. Yep. That's an organization that brings opposite side political minded folks together at the table. Support and promote the election of candidates at all levels who support and promote social justice, immigration justice. These are great. What else do people really care about? What are you passionate about? Transgender rights? Yep. I'll let people keep typing. Feel free to keep typing if you think of things. What I'm going to do at the end of this is we're going to take what we see in the chat and just make a note of what people are interested in. So reproductive health care, yep. Mindfulness and advocacy for differently abled folks. This is wonderful. Keep them coming. And we're going to kind of take a look at the end and see what everybody said. I love to see this passion among everybody. We know it's there. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we all are free.